I'd like to welcome you to this presentation of Fair Fighting Rule number 12, which is entitled Write Letters. And that's right as in pen and paper, not right and wrong, although that could apply as well. We certainly don't want to be composing any wrong letters, but before I get myself too tangled up in just explaining the title, let's see if I can keep pressing on. I would like to ask that you please hold your comments and any questions until the end of the presentation. So with that bit of introduction, let's jump into it. Sometimes couples reach a point in a domestic dispute where the verbal communication has ceased. And having been there myself, actually, truth be told, at home, I'm in that position right now. And it feels like one of the lowest of lows. But it doesn't necessarily mean you need to throw the towel in, right? Every one of us humans is different from the next. Just like every relationship is different from the next. What I'm trying to get at is I don't want you comparing yourself and your relationship too closely with others. You know, if you're hearing about how dreamy and wonderful your friends and acquaintances' relationships are, well, maybe you need to put a filter on what you're hearing from them. It's very likely that most of what they're even telling you isn't truthful. You'll gain more physical, mental, and emotional benefit if you focus on improving your own relationship. You know, there are those relationships that may never encounter periods of no talking, while on another extreme, there are those relationships that frequently encounter periods of silence. And then there's what I consider to be the majority of the relations that fall somewhere in between those two extremes. All right, so there you are, not talking to your partner. If you're like me, you've already gone through several different emotional states, like anger, sorrow, guilt, strength, loneliness, and anything and everything else. At some point, though, maybe out of weariness, I have replayed the words from the fight over in my head enough times where I eventually say to myself, you know, I was right about some of the things I said to my wife, but in all honesty, she said some valid things as well. Basically, I'm just wishing things can be normal again. And it's at this point that I'll resort to writing. Did you know that your written vocabulary is more extensive than your spoken vocabulary? Well, it is. And you should take advantage of that fact in this sort of circumstance. Effectively, what you want to do is incorporate the fair fighting rules, but in written form. Now, no one is expecting you to write a novel or even a short story. For example, one of my most effective writings was when I cut a single flower out of the garden, I put it in a vase, and I wrote a note with 3 words on it. I miss you. That was enough to open up a dialogue. I'll offer some tips that have helped guide me in writing a note after a period of silence. You'll want to start with a positive remark, and that might come in the form of a compliment to your partner, or it might be an expression of your loneliness or sadness of you being apart during this period of silence, or something to that effect. Follow that by trying to state how you understand or agree with some aspect or some point that your partner was trying to make during the fight that led to this silent period. Now, if you feel like you could have done a better job of expressing your opinion during the fight, maybe you could have been less harsh or less hurtful, this would be an opportune time to tell your partner exactly that. Tell them you messed up and you want to rephrase something. I would shy away from accusing your partner of anything in the written statement. However, I do think it's fair to share how something your partner said made you feel. Now, my wife, she takes apologies with a grain of salt. You know, she much prefers you demonstrate your love for her through some type of action. You know, for example, a massage, or prepare her a fresh bowl of fruit, or make her a healthy dish. You know, do something to show that, one, you're thinking about her, and two, that you care about her. Now, I, on the other hand, I am a big fan of apologies, at least when they're offered sincerely. So, given that divergence of opinion, I will defer to you as to whether you should include an apology in a written note or not. In the written note, I never try and cover all aspects of the fight. You know, at this point, I'm just trying to break the silence. And I always finish my note by drawing a heart. I hope I've given you a few ideas you can work with, and at this point, I'd be happy to entertain any questions. There being no questions, I guess that wraps it up. Thank you for letting me into your world. This is Landry, the average reasonable person.